Are you a vintage Etsy seller or you're looking to sell vintage items on Etsy? Well, I have an amazing episode for you today. I want to give you 5 super hot vintage Etsy niches that you can get into to make some serious money on Etsy. Let's go. Hey everyone, what is happening? Hopefully you're doing well. I'm your host, LL. Welcome back to the Handmade and Beyond podcast. I am back today with another great episode for you guys. I want to give you 5 super hot Etsy vintage niches that you can get into, sell on Etsy with, and make a really good living or amount of money on Etsy if you're looking for this stuff specifically to sell on the platform. Vintage, as a reminder, is 20 years or older. You can sell that stuff on Etsy. If it's newer than that, you cannot sell it on the Etsy platform. You have to go somewhere else. So when you're out looking at yard sales, thrift stores, whatever the case may be, you can look for this stuff, pick it up, usually very inexpensively if you know what to look for, and sell it on the platform and make really good return on your investment. Some people sell kind of all over the place. Some people focus on a specific niche. I always advise people, especially early on, to focus on a specific niche, a specific area, so you can become an expert in that area and know what to look for, rather than trying to focus on everything. You're going to get lost. It's going to get really hard. You're going to miss a lot of stuff. So I want to give you the five niches, and I have a bonus one for you, an honorable mention one for you. This stuff is in no particular order. I'm not ranking these from best to worst, greatest to least. These are all really good. I'm just going to throw them out there so you know kind of what the niche is, and then some specific examples within that niche on stuff to look for. And you can take this to the next level and make sure you're looking on Etsy or other platforms such as eBay to see what stuff is selling for, what stuff is listed for, what's hot, what's not within these specific niches. And there's a lot of stuff that you can sell within these niches as well. So these can be very broad as far as the amount of stuff that you can find. All right, let's dive in, guys. The first one is clothes. This is something that's super hot right now. Vintage clothes, 90s tees, 80s tees, you name it. This stuff is really important. A lot of younger kids are wearing old retro clothes. That's why it is even more popular now than ever. So a really good example of this is band tees, old band tees, touring tees that has the tour dates on the back of the t-shirts, old rap tees. You got some old Tupac tees. I mean, that stuff can bring big money. You could sell that stuff for $80 to $150 or more for a t-shirt. The other t-shirts that are popular are old NASCAR tees, which you never would have thought that stuff would be coming back. Old Dale Earnhardt tees, Jeff Gordon tees, especially if the print wraps around the whole shirt. Those t-shirts can bring really, really big money. The other stuff that sells well as far as clothing, old flannel does really well, especially considering what kind of pattern it is. And denim. Denim sells really, really well and can bring in a lot of money. Now you have to be careful with this stuff because you have to determine the age of it. You do research on denim and old jeans, old Levi's, things like that. There's specific differences, subtle differences in their tags and stitching, where you can tell how old something is. Because if you're selling something that's supposed to be vintage and it's not, it can get you in trouble. So you got to make sure that you're doing your research so you know how old stuff is. Not only so you're in the guidelines of selling on Etsy, but also for your own benefit, because the old stuff brings money. You don't want to be buying new stuff thinking that you're getting old stuff, and then it's new stuff and it's not worth as much money. So you got to be careful when it comes to that. So clothes is the first big niche that you can really do well on if you're looking for stuff in thrift stores, yard sales, wherever you're sourcing. The next one is pop culture stuff. So this would be like old magazines, especially if you're looking at niched stuff, magazines that aren't made anymore, old sports magazines, you name it, look for old niched magazines, and they can bring in some really good money. The other thing is movies, old VHS tapes, especially if it's sealed, can bring really good money. The older, the better. this, and if they're sealed, even if they're unsealed, some of the rarer stuff can bring in some really good money, and they're even harder and harder to find because most people just threw them away. So that's why it's good to be on the lookout for those. I specifically collect old sealed VHS. I think it's really cool. Brings me back to my childhood. I loved movies. I loved watching movies as a kid. We always did the Blockbuster on Friday night with Little Caesars Pizza. I always look forward to that, the TGI Friday shows, and then we would watch movies and usually fall asleep during the second movie, get up Saturday morning, watch the rest of the second movie, and then return the movies to Blockbuster on Sunday so we wouldn't get a late fee. That was the whole weekend. The other thing, old posters, old music, cassette tapes, again, specifically rock, rap do really well. Sealed, which are really hard to find, but even unsealed cassette tapes can do really well for you. So that is it as far as different pop culture. There's more than that. That's just a couple of ideas for you. The next ware is glassware and pottery. This is something that is highly collectible, and people are really looking for this stuff. It's very sought after now. If you're finding this stuff in thrift stores, be on the lookout for like uranium glass. This is glass that glows green under a black light. Really cool looking, so you can see why it's popular. But also different color glass is very popular. Amber glass, pink glass, blue glass. That stuff is all very, very popular. So be on the lookout for older type glassware. And then pottery, such as old crocks. These are big pots that have a lid. They usually have markings on the bottom, but old crocks, the bigger they are, the more valuable they are. It's super hard to find. But if you find a bigger crock, that can be hundreds of dollars. All right, moving on to the next one. That is old furniture. People are really, really looking for old furniture. It's made really well. It has a cool vintage look to it. Mid-century furniture, 70s furniture, 80s furniture. People are really seeking that type of furniture just because of the cool look. They're looking to actually purchase it as is. They're also looking at it to repurpose it and upgrade it and do some modification to it. Basically restore it, whatever the case may be. So be on the lookout for older type furniture. You can usually tell because of how heavy it is, the type of woodworking. The drawers are dovetailed. That basically you can tell they fit together in a dovetail pattern. So some of them will have markings that you can look up online. But again, be careful. This is harder to determine the age of furniture, especially if it doesn't have markings on it. So be very careful. Do your research, but old furniture can do really well. A little bit harder to sell bigger stuff because of the shipping costs involved, but there is still a way to do it. You can still ship this stuff out. Some of the stuff can be taken apart. So just keep that in mind. You can sell stuff locally. There's more than one way to skin a cat when it comes to furniture. So don't let that deter you. If it's something that you're into, you enjoy, you like, there is big money in furniture because you can usually get it very cheap if you're on the lookout for it. All right. Number 5 is toys and games. This is something that's going to always be popular. People are wanting to go back to their childhood, buy their childhood toys, buy their childhood games, put them in their office, display them. You want to remember the good times of your childhood. So this will always be a thing. It will always be collectible. So this is stuff like video games, figurines, board games. If the stuff is sealed, that is very big money, but it's very, very hard to find sealed. But you can still make really good money if you're finding these old vintage video games and figurines and different stuff like that out in the marketplace. So be on the lookout for that. A lot of people do really, really well in this niche. And this is also a very big niche. It's very broad. There's a lot of different stuff within this niche. I just named a few, but there is way more than that you can be on the lookout for when it comes to this stuff. And this stuff is really easy to usually look up and see the age of it. A lot of this stuff has barcodes. A lot of stuff has dates on the back. So it's very easy to determine the age of this stuff. So it shouldn't be a problem making sure that this falls into the vintage category. The last is an honorable mention, even though it is not least. Again, this is not ranking, but I wanted to give you guys a number 6 because it is super popular and super hot, and that is jewelry. Vintage jewelry, antique jewelry is really hot. And it's been hot for a long time. It's even more hot now. People want to wear vintage jewelry. This is all like old school brooches can bring really good money, especially if they're very ornate. Um, some of them are very rare that you can find, chunky necklaces, bracelets, gemstones. Again, you have to be careful determining the age of these items. Some of them will have markings on them, which will help you determine the age. And this is just one of the things that you will learn. If you're in this niche, you'll learn from the patina, the type of material is used, how old it is. Just be careful. Do your research to make sure it falls under the vintage category. But there's a lot of people that sell jewelry on Etsy, a lot of people that sell vintage jewelry on Etsy and do really well. So that's just another niche, another idea for you if you're looking to get into the market of selling vintage stuff. Now, you don't have to be limited by these niches. You can sell parts or different niches together. If you have a vintage shop, there's nothing wrong with selling multiple vintage things. If you want to just niche down to selling one of these things or a portion of these things, that is good too, and that may be a little bit easier. But it is hard to find a lot in one specific niche, especially if you're looking for just one small area of the niche. It may be hard to source that, so you may have to expand out a little bit in order to find stuff. That should give you a good idea if you're looking to break into the vintage market or you need some ideas as far as what's selling, what's hot in the marketplace. That should give you a good place to start and give you some good ideas as far as what you guys can be on the lookout for when you're out and about in at yard sales, thrift stores, estate sales, Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp. These are different places that you guys can snag this stuff to resell for big bucks on Etsy. That is it, guys, for today's episode. If you like this stuff, please give me a like, share, comment on YouTube. Give me a follow. Give me a subscribe. I really appreciate it. It helps me reach more people. Helps me continue to do this content to help you guys grow your business and bring you the best stuff possible. But I'll be back really soon with another good episode for you guys. Have an amazing rest of your day.